point. So welcome everybody. Today is August 12th, and this is the Asia-Pacific CHAOSS community call. So the minutes are in the chat. You want to click on that link and head over and add yourself. That would be great. I'll give you a second to do that.
Matt, do you want to share your screen? Because a lot of our colleagues in China can't read.
Oh, sure. Yep. Can do. Alrighty. So today, something got taken off there. Today we had, I thought we were going to start with community questions. We had pushed those to the end last time, and then we were kind of rushed. So why don't we kind of open up the meeting with folks that have questions with respect to CHAOSS, whether it's software or metrics, or thinking about how this can have implications inside of your organization. So maybe we'll just start there. Or programs or direction. It's your choice. You can go any direction you'd like.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm Willem.
Yep. Hey, Willem.
Yeah. And just for updating, I just switched my work to the inner source things. So it's hard for me to find time to work on the Git issue, but I think maybe in the coming up few months, if there's anyone who have time to work on it, I'm really appreciate it. Maybe I can find the time later on, but currently I spend a lot of time on our because we just start a new campaign, the inner source campaign for there's a bunch of projects inside Huawei which wants to run in open source way. So maybe I can bring some experience which I use for the metrics, which I used to get to monitor or just to get to know the project health to help us. So now I just spend some time for those projects to help them to work in an open source way. So I don't have time to work on the software type things. But fortunately, we use GitLab a lot. So I think we can get a lot of information from the GitLab API. So the Giddy plugin is not my first priority. So I just update the status to you guys.
Okay.
No problem. Willem, have you started on the inner source work? Where are you at on that right now? Is it still early?
I just switch my directions to these areas.
Gotcha. I mean, I totally agree. It would be awesome if there's experience that you can bring about the projects that, obviously not internal private information, but the types of projects that are candidates to observe, and then what metrics you are using.
Yeah.
And
currently, I think the developer information is quite useful, but I'm quite interested about operation information, just like how to build the community.
Okay.
It's a great challenge for us to find the user who want to contribute back to the upstream project, because sometimes they just the simple user, they just take away the code, and there is no how to say that, they don't want to contribute back. So it could be my challenge to find a way to encourage them to contribute, or just convince them to contribute back. So I can borrow some metrics which is used to find someone who may be the first contributor, or if there's someone who interesting about to contribute things back, I need to follow up to help them to make sure they can keep doing these things inside the company.
So I had just made a note. So if the goal is to build community, I'm kind of looking at Sean and Dawn about what some of those, like building a community is a large activity that involves not only
Totally
understanding.
agree.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if there are early ways to think about, or early metrics that you might want to start looking at when you're on the path to build community. And so I'm thinking of, Sean, the work that you had done with Zephyr around new contributors.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. So
or Dawn.
But I think he's talking about Wilhelm, are you talking about building internal communities around your inner source projects, or are you talking about building external? Okay, because that's a little bit different than the work that Sean did.
Internal project.
Yeah, because that's a little bit different than what we did with Zephyr, right? Because that's more.
Yeah, that was more. It's an open source community. It's not inner
it's
source.
more external. Yeah, the inner source stuff, I have to admit, I don't have a ton of experience with. What might be interesting is if maybe we could get, maybe for this next call, we could get Daniel Izquierdo to come in, because he has loads of experience with inner source. Maybe we could get him to do like a presentation.
Wow,
maybe
that's going to
for
be
20.
great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's available. We'll have to ask him, but I'm guessing that if he's not available, there should be somebody at Bitergia that could come in and give like a 20-30 minute pitch about how to build inner source communities.
Yeah. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah. I'm really appreciate because even I had some experience of how to build the open source community externally, but for the internal things, it could be a challenge. There is some I think blocker.
It depends on accountants and managers and directors a lot more. And what is open source? What is inner source in your organization? I would expect I've never done it, but I would expect the culture is very specific to your company.
Yeah, the culture is quite different, so that's going to be a big challenge. And fortunately, we already use GitLab, so the infrastructure should be fine. But a lot of things, especially because if we want the people work across the department, it's quite challenging, because the managers may not think the thing is quite important. So that's a challenge.
I mean,
yeah, that's the thing with inner source, is that the internal politics become very important, which is something that we have, you see less in open source communities. You see between company politics, but not internal company politics. Whereas with inner source, I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Why would I spend my budget on a project that benefits other people? some managers think like that. I'm not saying they should, but
Or why should my department contribute to this open source project? It's your job, department,
right,
other department, to do that
right.
work for me.
Yes, yes,
I think is actually
exactly.
what you see a lot of
Yes,
inside
yes,
companies.
yeah. Yeah, you're a cost center. I'm a profit center. Get out of my way.
Well, that's a great idea. I'll reach out to Daniel for the meeting 2 weeks from now. And he's a super nice guy. So unless there's a time conflict, I'm guessing that he would be happy to do that. So that's cool.
Oh, okay. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you bet. Cool. All right. Any other questions or comments, concerns from community
I have questions.
folks?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey,
I have a
King.
question. So to Don Foster, how can you address the driver of engagement to the internal source? You know, some of the KPI, because of KPI, we can't engage in the open source in many times. How can you drive the contributor, developer in your internal source?
Yeah,
This
I
is for.
haven't.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I haven't really done much inner source. I've always been involved mostly in open source, so I'm really not sure exactly how to do that, I guess.
Okay.
I'm not much help in answering your question.
Okay. I can share some of these questions and comments with Daniel ahead of time too. All right, great. Any other questions from folks on this? All right. Great. So you got a little bit of an update on the Giddy plugin. Sean, are you doing stuff on this in this regard?
I'm a little backlogged. I got behind.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this. The GitHub copies of this. I'm supposed to be doing the Augur reports, and I didn't. I made a note of myself being reminded at the start of the meeting.
Okay.
So I'll just hang my head in shame.
And the hope is to have this as, would there be a worker created for Augur?
Well, the first thing I'll do is there's a mirror on GitHub for a collection of Git repositories that King is interested in. And
Okay.
so I'll just use the mirror. And then in terms of a Giddy plugin, I think ultimately it would be a worker, but yeah, we haven't had the time to dig into that.
Is there somebody at Missouri, like a student? Because I know Carter and Gabe are kind of doing other things.
Yeah, they'll come back for the fall,
Okay.
so they'll be here through the end of December.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they're both for like about a month of heavily shortened internships that have kind of locked them out of contributing to Augur for this month.
Okay.
Because they're supposed to be all summer, but they ended up being like 5 or 6 weeks. And so they're just super intense. And they're kind of softly interviewing for jobs after graduation. So it's, I'm just giving them space, but I expect them back in a week.
Okay. All right, cool. I had something on here, but it somehow got taken off.
It was I probably did some kind of editing dumb thing.
I doubt it. or I imagined I did it.
Yeah.
Which is also a possibility. So one of the things that we had talked about in yesterday's community call was translating some of the CHAOSS documentation to a variety of different languages. To me, Chinese makes a lot of sense.
It does. It's a whole different character set and everything.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think we're going to need is, it's definitely not the entirety of the CHAOSS GitHub organization. It's identifying a few key documents that would require or that could benefit from translation. And so one of the things that we most certainly are going to need is people to help kind of ensure the quality of the translation, not to do the translation itself. We have a process and some support to do that, but just kind of ensuring that the translation is legible.
So somebody who speaks both Chinese and English, then obviously to QA what we come up with, or the translation. Yeah, because we obviously I can't QA it. I do not read any dialect or Chinese language.
So we're kind of looking for volunteers, for people that might be willing to help in this regard. So again, it's not doing the translation itself. It's just kind of helping ensure that the translation is done well.
It's just like a reviewer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I can give a hand on that. And I think I may ask help from community. Currently, I run Apache local community Beijing. So there's a bunch of guys who are interested about the open source. So I will ask if they are interested about that, and I will share the task link.
That would be awesome.
To them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But I have a question for how do we do the translation? We just use the machine to translate the documentation.
Yep. So we've settled on a tool called Git Localize.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a machine translation, and we can, from what I understand at this point too, we can also pay the organization of Git Localize a small fee, because right now the translation has to occur one markdown file at a time, so it could be a little tedious, and so we can pay kind of somebody at the organization at Git Localize to kind of shepherd the process for the documents that we identify as the ones to translate. So yes, to your question, yes, it's machine translation.
Okay. I will ask help from the volunteers. So if they are interested about these things. Basically, they are quite interested about open source. Maybe they also interested about the metrics.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
And I don't think, I'll say too, I don't think the workload is very high, because we're only looking at translating a select set of documents, not the entirety of the organization at this point.
You mean it's just for the websites, not for the metrics?
Well, so the website, so the metrics for sure, I think, are candidates. The community handbook would be a candidate for this as well. The community handbook is just a handbook to kind of define the processes within the CHAOSS project. So I think those would probably be the starting point. Then I think from there, probably the website would be next. So it'd be a series of steps, but I think the metrics are certainly a key candidate at this point.
Okay. So we can try from the we just make a small steps. So try to verify if the whole process is okay.
Exactly. Yep. We do have to figure out the process, like where the translations will sit, how can we make them available to people, that kind of stuff. Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
I will keep an eye on it.
Thank you. All right. So, and then maybe just a note here. There was yesterday the latest CHAOSS metrics release. You can find it at here. So we released 6 new metrics, totaling somewhere in the mid-40s. Somebody can tell me the exact number. I think that's the right link. And so thanks to everybody. That was a ton of work. And I'm thinking too, Willem, that as we kind of work through some of the inner source stuff, that we may, perhaps for the next release, start thinking about metrics that we could define that would be useful in the inner source context. So I'd love to get some of the work that you're doing captured in the CHAOSS project as well, as metrics that other people might find helpful, particularly in that inner source context.
Yeah, I think I would wonder if in inner source, the question of identifying companies that contribute, which is prominent in open source, becomes departments that contribute. Because I think recognizing the department contribution, going back to the earlier conversation, would be one way of encouraging inner source work.
Right, I'm jotting that down.
Never done it, but it occurs to me that that might be helpful.
What did you call it, like departmental diversity or something like that? Instead of org diversity or org contributors? Yeah. Okay. So I mean, maybe too, over the course of the next 6 months, we could, as some of these become more apparent, we could even use this time to work through the development of some of those metrics. Should be cool. All right. I am at the end of my item list. And like a good neighbor, we don't have to go until another 20 minutes. So are there other things that people would like to bring up or have questions about on this call?
Looks like we lost King. Jaya, Willem.
Oh, his network is not good enough. He is in a hotel.
Oh yeah,
Gotcha.
Hotels are notorious. Bad.
He went to Beijing, but I just go to Shenzhen, so we are just in different place.
Okay, yeah. Travel Wi-Fi is, I mean, few conferences do it as well as the Linux Foundation, where they bring their own network with them wherever they go.
All right. Well, great. So if nobody has anything else, these were kind of the items that I had for today. Happy to bring more things forward, but I think next week, or not next week, but in 2 weeks, yep, I'll work to get Daniel here, and I think that'll probably generate a nice, lively discussion.
I concur.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking for that.
Yeah, I think that'll be really, I'm looking forward to it too, because I'm not super familiar with the inner source space either, and it's probably time to become more familiar with it. All right.
Okay.
Well, everybody, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.